The second thing to remember when your enemies surround you, remember that God saves you. He is your salvation, but also that he is your defense. Look at that word there in the first verse. The Lord is the defense of my life. Whom shall I dread? The defense of my life. God defends us. This word can be translated as stronghold or fortress or strength or defense or refuge. It can actually be translated as helmet, right? A helmet protects you. It can be protection, safety, strong, strongest. The root word is actually mountain stronghold, right? Mountain stronghold. When I read that, immediately I thought of NORAD. Over in Colorado Springs, I grew up in Colorado Springs. You guys know Cheyenne Mountain, huge granite mountain, and NORAD, used to be kind of the safe, hub until everybody knew where NORAD was. And then if you lived in Colorado Springs, if there was a war going on, you were always afraid that they were going to nuke NORAD, even though the president never goes there, because everybody knows NORAD, it's that giant mountain. It's, safe from nuclear attacks and all that kind of stuff. And if you live in the city just next to it, then you're in trouble. But, if you could get into NORAD, there you go. NORAD is this mountain stronghold. That's the idea. God is a stronghold for you in times of trouble. When you have enemies surrounding you, God is there to protect. That's the idea. So when you're surrounded by your enemies, remember who your salvation is from. Remember that God saves you. Remember that he defends you. And then look at verse 2. When evildoers came up upon me to devour my flesh, that sounds horrific. When evildoers came up to me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell. Right? So I put here that remember that God trips up the enemy. Right? God protects you. Anybody ever seen those movies like Home Alone, where the kid sets booby traps for the enemies, the thieves or whatever, and there's always something to trip over. There's always something to step on that just stops them in their momentum, and then they have to get back up and keep chasing after the kid. That's the idea here, right? Somebody is tripped up by God, and it's David's enemies. When evildoers came upon me to devour my flesh, my adversaries, my enemies, they stumbled and they fell. The Hebrew word for stumble is stumble. That's it, right? It means to get tripped up. It could also mean to fall, right? But that's interesting. Look at that. My adversaries, my enemies, they fall and they fall. Well, it's actually fall and fell. That second word, fell, usually we would think of it, if you read stumble before it, that they're just falling on their face. But actually, it's most often translated fall as in a fallen comrade or someone who falls in the line of duty. You've heard these phrases. We know it's talking about death. So literally, God's protection for David is that his enemies are tripped up, and sometimes they come to ruin because they're trying to attack David, his chosen king. It's got to make you feel a little safer to know that there's someone who's going to fight for you to the death. Right? That's God.